I had a woman in my congregation who's now with the Lord and now has perfect assurance. But she couldn't have assurance while she was alive because she was raised in a tradition. And I failed her and other pastors failed her. She was raised in a tradition where until you had the blessing, you couldn't come to the Lord's table. And her dad went to communion, and the next Tuesday, 3 or 4 elders in black suits came to their house, Yeah, Val, we noticed that you came to the Lord's table and you haven't made profession, you have give testimony that you had the blessing. And she was traumatized. I knew her in her 70s, and she had no assurance. For her to have assurance without the blessing was a sign of presumption, which was a sign of damnation. The only way she could have any peace at all was to doubt. She couldn't have assurance. And I used to go to her house and plead with her. And she couldn't because she'd been wrecked by that terrible system. And she died in that misery. And that misery reverberated through families and generations. And it was all because they wouldn't accept that it's just, that's why I said it's not a second blessing. There aren't 2 classes of Christians. You know who invented that whole business of 2 classes? It wasn't Jesus and it wasn't the apostles, it was the Gnostics. They created the ones who had special knowledge and then the ones who were second class. There were Gnostics, Christians, and Psychikoi, or the fleshly ones. We didn't talk that way. And we ended up internalizing that nonsense. And it's wrecked a lot of families and lives and even churches. I know of a congregation where there are 1,000 people, and the only people who go to communion are the elders. That's not what Jesus had in mind. And certainly not what the apostles had in mind. It's not what the Heidelberg has in mind or what the Westminster has in mind.